Welcome to the WRW podcast, where we discuss and explore the world of women's writing. I'm Sammi.
I'm Abhi.
And I'm Devi.
Sadly, Anna is not here today because of reasons.
Cough, cough, cough.
Those are the reasons. But today, as in not today the day of recording, today the day of the release of the episode is Anna's birthday!
Happy birthday! Please don't be sick anymore.
Yeah, please get well soon. We miss you.
And it was also Sammi's birthday this week.
Yeah.
On 22nd.
Yay! The day before recording. Yes. Happy birthday. I'm 20. Okay. Today's episode is Fleabag Friday Part 2. If you haven't already listened to it, you can check out Fleabag Friday Part 1, where we cover the first season of the show, its representations of gender and relationships, good and bad feminism, as well as some interesting fourth wall breaking. This episode, in continuation, focuses on Season 2. But before we get into that, we have an important question from Abhi.
This might be a very eccentric question, but if you were to be a dustbin, what kind of a dustbin would you be? Would you be like an open dustbin, like those smart dustbins, or just like push the pedal and then open the lid dustbin? Devi.
A very interesting question, Abhi.
You're welcome.
While walking to college today from the bus stop at 6:45 a.m. in the morning, I was thinking of semester 2, which was our first offline semester, and how we would like randomly see dead rats all over this sheet for some reason. And I have not seen a single dead rat since.
Maybe it's because, all of the like insects and rodents came out of the sewer during lockdown because no one was...
Or maybe it
No
was
one
just
was
a
on the
bad
roads.
semester. That semester.
Yeah, it was a curse. There was some bad juju in there. Yeah.
Some rats.
A lot of rats, indeed. But it just, I think if I were a trash can, I'd be one of those open ones surrounded by flies and like dead rats at my feet, because I do feel...
Kind of matching with the theme of our episode, Fleabag.
You're right, I'd have fleas with me. I'd be a Fleabag trash can, because I also kin her like I responded to in the previous episode. Yeah, Sammi.
I don't mean to be... Maybe this isn't narcissistic, but I think I would be a compost pile.
Like not even a proper
Dustbin.
Yeah, no, like wet food waste, and then if I decompose and I fertilize the plants.
Nice.
But maybe like a compost pile that's where there are no plants. So I'm just like, I can be useful, but I'm not.
Nice.
Yeah, Abhi?
I think I would be those traditional push the pedal, open the lid dustbins, because they are so convenient. They're cheap and they are nice, and they come in a variety of colors, and
You're cheap, Abhi.
this is not a derogatory session. I would not be one of those smart dustbins because they're really costly, okay? And they're like dumb, because you can just push the pedal with your leg. Why do you have to wave your hand over that stupid thing?
I guess in comparison to the kind of dustbins that Devi and I chose, I guess we are cheaper than her, even though hers is also cheap.
Yeah, we win.
So
Sorry.
Is it who's the cheapest? Is that the
no,
competition?
I'm saying she can be cheap but still be more expensive than us.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was my question.
So we left off episode 1 with a discussion on fourth wall breaks in season 1, about scenes where Fleabag is watching her relationship with her family further fall apart, or is being broken up with, or is literally having sex, and she thinks it's the perfect time to look at the camera and pass a witty remark. It's uncomfortable and strange and comedic. But while I was watching season 2, it was not the same. It was really different from the last time. And I'm interested to know if you guys felt the same kind of shift in her asides, and if there's a scene that really stood out to you in the way it breaks the fourth wall. Abhi?
Okay, so first of all, if any of you have not watched season 2, please watch it, because it is just so good. It's so good. One particular scene that comes to mind when talking about fourth wall is a scene where her and the hot priest are sitting at the cafe, and he's holding her guinea pig, and then they're talking about stuff, and she addresses the fourth wall, and he notices that, and then he asks her where she just disappears every time she does that. And there's a moment where I think he makes eye contact with the camera, and it is this fourth wall break in the second season is so different, because he is the first to break this pattern of her coping, like this is like a pattern that she has, that she gets herself out of these situations and she dissociates and she doesn't really connect to the people in the moment because she's addressing us, and that's her coping mechanism, and he's the one that breaks this pattern. And by the end of this season, there's a scene where she refuses the camera to follow her, and it's like she's trying to break free of that pattern and trying to be more present in the moment with the people around her, and she's trying to become better in her communication and the way that she is around everybody. Yeah, Sami?
Yeah, so I think, like, while we were discussing in the last episode, we were talking about how, like you said, she's using this aside as a coping mechanism for whatever bad things are happening. But as season 2 comes, suddenly her cafe is doing really well and she's really successful, and we realize that this coping mechanism, this humor, is also something that's taking her away from happiness in a lot of ways. Like, the character seems to get used to being out of her body and being out of her situation, whether that's in a negative or a positive context. And I think, so one of the central characters that is introduced, as Abhi spoke about, is this character called the hot priest. He is amazing. I consider him to be my ideal self. Like, I feel like in my head, my dream version of Sammi is just the hot priest. Like, he's amazing. And we see the way that he notices that she pushes herself away from this happiness, and the way that she gets, like, moves away from a situation. I like the way that he describes it in that scene you were talking about, where he says it feels like for a moment you were not here.
It's like some dimension thing for him.
Yeah, like you went, like you went somewhere just now.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, this is weird, and she turns to the camera to tell us that it's weird, and then he's like, there, you did it again. And it's just, he's in a very simple language talking about her not being present. Like, I could say, oh, you just disassociated, or oh, you're just like going in denial of the situation, or you're like not addressing what's going on or your feelings. But he's just like, oh, you went away. And I think I really love the simplicity of his writing in those scenes where he's trying to help her. And I like how the aside is a humorous and funny thing in season 1, but then you still feel like it has to be, you're okay with it being let go. You're okay with it ending in season 2. And I like how it maintains that across both. Abhi, you have something to say?
I just wanted to add that she really feels called out because of the fact that the priest keeps noticing the fact that she's just like disappearing somewhere, and I feel she must feel so overwhelmed because you can't, like, she feels stripped away of that coping mechanism that she has, and I really felt bad for her. But also you mentioned that it takes away from her happiness. There was this one scene with her and the therapist where she was like, do you have friends that you can talk to? And then she looks at the camera and it's like, we are her only friends after Boo's dead, but we're not really there.
We literally watched her suffer all of season 1.
Yeah, we're not her friends, and it's like, that's so sad, and it is really taking away from her happiness, and I'm really glad that pattern break happens. Yeah, that's all I wanted to add. Devi?
Yeah, not much to add on, but there's also this like gradual sort of progression or like the lessening of the fourth wall thing you can see across the season. So the first episode, I mentioned in the last episode that the first episode was chaotic as hell, and I wasn't expecting that many fourth wall breaks. But the first episode of this season was even more chaotic. Like every second she's turning towards the camera, saying a joke. There's this part where she jokes about like her dad dying, but says, "Oh no, that's not really real," and then she goes back to her conversation with her family. It's very chaotic because they're at this like.
It's like she's almost living in this world with the camera and not in the world with her family.
It's kind of like she's split between two worlds, more like she's shifting between rapidly.
She's just really engrossed in that fourth wall break.
And also because no one in her family was paying attention to her. There's this one of my favorite like lines. She during the dinner scene, she looks at the camera and says, "No one has asked me a question in 45 minutes." And before like she can complete that sentence, the hot priest asks her, "So what do you do?" And it's him who like gets her back to their world. Gets her back from like her talking to us.
He's
and
like an anchor that is kind of like grounding her back.
Oh my god. Don't make me sad, man. Like I need to be focused for this episode. So the conversation in the cafe is a really like pivotal point, right? And after that like scene, she kind of has like a fight with the priest because I think he asks her about like her friend. When he asks her about like who else like started the cafe with her, she looks at the camera. And then we see a scene of Boo shaking her head, which further adds on to my theory that she's really like looking for Boo and not like anyone else. It's Boo like shaking her head, and she refuses to like tell the priest like who her friend was. And after that, I think they have this conflict where she says that she does not want to like share everything about herself with him. And she's kind of like, when she reaches back to her house, she's kind of like looking at the camera in a very like uncomfortable way. Like she does not want us within quotes, like whoever this us is, she does not want us there. And over time, as the season progresses, we get less of her talking to us and more of her like being rooted in that world. There's this like really interesting conversation she has with this one woman called Belinda. I forgot her last. Thank you, Abhi. Frears. Of course, Abhi remembers her.
She gave one of my favorite lines from this show ever, which I will talk about later.
Yeah. She flirts with Belinda. She acts silly, goofy with her, but never once does she like talk to us.
Yeah.
It's always with Belinda.
It's like in this season, sorry to cut you off. It's like in this season, it feels less of a performance and more of like a situation that she's in. Like she gets out of that performative
kind of
self.
Definitely. And there's also like scenes of her with Claire where she does not look at us at all, like during the important convo parts, which I will elaborate on in our next sections. And finally, at the end, she leaves us behind. Like Abhi said, she shakes her head to us. And I feel like it was a direct parallel to Boo shaking her head. Like in that one scene in the cafe, like she looks at the camera and it's Boo shaking her head. But when we are about to follow her in the last scene, she looks at us and she shakes her head.
But she's also smiling.
But she's also smiling. Yeah. And then she leaves
us. And then I get on the bus and I go home.
You go home?
Yeah.
The 13 Ban Shankari. Yeah, am I doxing you?
I'm sorry. One last thing to add. I'm sorry, I have so much to talk about this.
Okay, you're really
season. I watched this one video where it was like, I think it was something like why we will never have a third season for Fleabag, and then they mentioned something about the cuts being less when she has scenes with the priest, and the cuts are more like flowy, like it's smooth transition like a normal show and not really chaotic like it was for the rest of the show. And it's very subtle, but it's also so important that the change that the priest brings to her and the show as a whole, it's just so slay.
We love you, hot priest.
Yeah, slay.
I have a bone to pick with love stories, in quotes, love stories. I enjoy romance when it's pure nonsensical fiction. Some irritating chick flick or mildly problematic relationship that is too neat and dramatic to be real. I love that. I love it. I'll be all over it. But I liked the first season of Fleabag for the exact opposite reason. It was realistic to me in the way it depicted this nihilistic and cynical sort of femininity. And so when she starts the second season, where she's wiping her bleeding nose in the bathroom of a fancy restaurant and proclaiming that this is a love story, I was a little bit let down for a moment because I felt like we lost some critical piece of the rude, terrible, thoughtless, horny woman that we were clinging to from season 1. Love is not something that existed very profoundly in season 1, maybe between Fleabag and Boo or with her sister. What happens to love in season 2, do you guys think? Devi?
I'm just going to like preface this by saying that I'm not going to talk about the hot priest. It's up to you guys to handle him, because if I start, Abhi especially, she looks so excited.
I also wanted to talk about like the other forms of love, but please.
A hot priest, a father.
I can talk about me loving the hot priest.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so many forms of love. And also because if I start talking about hot priest and Fleabag, I'm going to start tearing up and bawling. And
when she said this is a love story, I had known about Fleabag and Hot Priest because of Tumblr and like literally every social media. I was like, oh, so this is about the Hot Priest. And I think that was very redundant of me, because going on, it was more focused on not the Hot Priest and like other characters, which Devi will talk about.
yes, definitely. I want to like start this off by saying that there's this line her dad tells to Fleabag during his wedding to the not evil stepmom, but like as Fleabag calls her, she's a cunt. Yeah. She is. She's a very like she is a terrible person, but like not in the evil stepmother way, more of like a cunning, underhanded. Oh, I'm going to be so sweet to you, but it's obvious that I am. There's this like really fun. Okay, this is not related to the question, but there's this really funny scene where after like Fleabag pretends to have a miscarriage and she goes to their house, she says, "You must be feeling rotten. Are you feeling rotten?"
Very cool.
Rotten to the very core. Yeah,
So obnoxious.
she's I love the acting of like the stepmother. But anyway, back to love. When her dad's marrying this stepmother, Fleabag finds him in the attic and his shoe had gotten like stuck in some mouse trap or something. Yeah, that man, I don't get him. He just like does whatever. But he tells Fleabag that she, out of like all of them, she's probably the one who knows how to love the best. I'm paraphrasing a lot, but this is what he tells her, and that's why it hurts for her. And you mentioned about the nose scene, right? Like she's wiping off blood from her nose, and after that she says that this is a love story. I feel like that's kind of like a parallel to like love being painful to her. Yeah. And
Maybe literature major.
oh, that's my job, guys, finding parallels, connections. Anyways, I started talking about it last scene. I don't know if it will make it in the final cut. Did I? No, I don't even know, guys. But I started talking about like the funeral flashback after like the camera starts cornering her after the fight with the hot priest, and she looks uncomfortable and it like goes into a flashback. It's at her mother's funeral, and she starts breaking down with her father, and then I think she's with Boo, and she tells her, "I just don't know what to do with all this love I have for her," and Boo says, "I'll take it." You know,
Give it to me.
give it to me, guys.
So like
I-
affectionate and tender and beautiful.
It's one of my
But
favorites.
also, it's like funny in the like give me attention kind of way.
I'll take
But it's also like it is like
very sincere.
I'll be here for you, and
Yeah.
like
Almost like that love was a burden and something painful, and Boo's like, "I'll take it. Like, it sounds lovely. I'll take it." And I love Fleabag. How am I going to get through this episode, guys? It's so... Yeah, about the other love within quotes relationships. A lot of people on Tumblr say that this is a love story between her and her sister Claire, and I do agree. I think Abhi wants to elaborate a lot more on this, so like I'll leave off the major parts for her. But like I will say that some of their scenes were like you would see them in a typical romance kind of plot. So in the restaurant, I expected most of her like interaction to be with the hot priest, but instead of like I noticed that she made the most eye contact with her sister. Like, she wasn't looking at the hot priest. Like, she was looking at him, but most of her attention, most of the intense eye contacts which we associate with like romantic love was with her sister. And of course there's this scene where like Claire has a miscarriage, and like she like, you know, Fleabag says that no, I had the miscarriage, and takes the attention away from her.
Not necessarily like takes the attention, like kind
No,
of like
a
yeah.
negative kind of.
Yeah, no,
attachment.
it allows them to have a conversation about the
Yeah,
miscarriage
yeah.
without like having to put the sister on the spot. That it's not as cooperative as I'm describing it right now, but it's a great scene, and it's right at the start of episode 1 of season 2. So please watch it.
Please watch it.
Yeah.
And one last thing, another romantic coded scene. You know, during the wedding, again, very important moment. Okay, so me and Abhi are breaking down. It's just so good. Claire and Fleabag are having a conversation where Fleabag is trying to convince her to go to the airport to chase after the man she's fallen in love with, who's called Claire. Yeah. So Claire spelled as Klare, like from
Finnish.
yeah, he's Finnish.
Yes.
Finnish is the word. He's Finnish. Yeah. And Claire just like highlights the absurdity of like chasing after someone in an airport. Like, oh, you need to know their like boarding.
You need to get a dummy ticket.
You need to get a dummy ticket. You
She's
need to
just
like
so
go
realistic
through.
about
Yeah, you need to go through a security check, and you'll just end up looking like a stalker. It'll be like absurd just going up to that person and saying, "Hi, I'm here to chase after you." And then she says, "The only person I'd chase run through an airport for is you, is Fleabag." Yeah.
That changed the trajectory of my life. I called my sister after this. I was like, do you want to watch a movie with me or something? We've not been spending time.
Yeah, and I'm just ending it at that. Yeah. Abhi?
Okay, I have so much to say about Claire and like her whole individual character and her relationship with Boo. I will talk about it a little bit later. But me and Devi were actually having a watch party at my house for this because we were just like whatever, and then we just started watching the second season, and then we
watched like the first few episodes.
Yes, she did.
She left.
Before she had to go to this stupid meeting and leave us. It was because you had to leave us. Okay. Anyways, so we mentioned. I think Devi mentioned that there was no love in the first season. I think because in the first season it was so lacking of compassion, and like there was no real.
I feel like, sorry to cut you off, there was love between Claire and Fleabag. Okay?
There was,
but that was lost. At the last episode.
Like it was really strained, you know. There was not a lot of the scenes where you could feel the love oozing from the characters, you know, but it was only with like her flashbacks with Boo, which doesn't really count because she's like dead, and then some scenes with Claire. There's one particular scene that I remember where Fleabag has been broken up with or something, and Claire tries to comfort her and asks her if she wants a hug, and I was like, okay, she's at least trying, you know, they love each other, they're sisters. But apart from that, I didn't really notice a lot of people, you know, choosing her. I think Devi or Sami mentioned about that. Anna mentioned.
You have already forgotten her.
Sorry. No, I didn't forget you, Anna. Anyways, second season is more compassionate and more full of love, even with the side characters. So I think Devi mentioned Belinda Frears. She's this really nice, wise lady who is the winner of this award thing that Claire has been hosting at her office.
Of this season and our hearts.
Yes, real. So she gives some really good advice to Fleabag, and she's so genuine with it, and she's so open about it and so tender about it, and she says this line that I really like. She says, people are all we've got, and I was like, real, that is so real, mother, slay. Belinda, you are so true. And then it is so nice to see the fact that she's being so wonderful towards Fleabag and not being so not being like dismissive and like being like, oh please, you don't know anything, you know, she's not making her feel small about her.
And I remember Fleabag's expression in that scene where she's looking at Belinda and she has those like eyes glossed over and like she's just looking at her with this awe, and it's in my head forever.
It's so good. Like there's so much love in this season, even with the side characters. There's this other weird bank manager guy who comes over to the cafe in one of the episodes, and then he's telling her how he got a new job that he's going to start. And then Fleabag has to go somewhere to help her sister, so he offers to take over the cafe for the day, and I was like, that's really nice of him. Like character development and nice friendship between Fleabag and him, and it was good, it was nice to see that people are there for her. And then now coming to Claire and Fleabag. So Claire is her sister. Claire is Fleabag's sister.
Claire's sister, Claire, and
please don't stop listening. I will explain everything. So Fleabag's sister Claire has the most character development in the show, for me at least, because their bond, it was so strained by the end of the first season, but they repair it gradually over the course of this whole season, and it was so good to watch it because it's just so wonderful. I don't even know what other adjectives to use for this, but they're there for each other even from the first scene. Fleabag takes cover for her, when she has her miscarriage, and she knows that her sister is so overwhelmed and everything. So she's there for her, and she covers for her, and she pretends that it's her miscarriage so that she doesn't have all eyes on her, and she doesn't feel stressed. And I was like, slay! You are there for your sister, and your sisterhood is so beautiful, and their relationship just like blossoms over the whole season, because this really is a love story between them. Especially that one line from the wedding that Devi mentioned, that was like so, I was obsessed with that. I was like, wow, wonderful, you guys really love each other. And then also there's a scene where Claire gets like a really horrendous haircut and she looks like a pencil, and Fleabag tries to comfort her by saying, oh, it's French. You look like it's a French thing. It's okay. It's not that bad. And then it's just so funny. But I love the fact that Claire first thought of calling Fleabag
in a crisis.
Yeah, and that was like, wow, you guys really have mended your relationship in some way. And then after that, the scene progresses where she meets Claire, the Finnish guy Claire, who she's working with. So they kind of are into each other. And he notices the haircut and he's like, oh my God, Claire, the haircut is so chic and so bougie and so wonderful. And
all of those words are French origin.
Thanks Sammi. And I see Claire, the Finnish guy, as a metaphor for Claire finding beauty in herself and loving herself. That's why maybe he's named Claire. And I was like, wow, that's excellent.
Claire learns to love Claire.
Yeah, because even though her haircut is horrendous,
Agni also literature major. Go on.
Sometimes. Because her haircut is truly horrendous. She looks horrible, okay? But Claire sees the beauty in that. And I think him being introduced as a character has really made Claire, like Fleabag's sister, grow in herself. Like there's been so much self-growth in her that I really loved watching this season. I think I could go on about this for a very long time, but I think I should stop at that. Too many metaphors, too much love, too much compassion.
Just like me for you, Shorty.
Okay, now, Sammi.
Before I start, Abhi does not talk this much in most of our episodes. I'm really happy to see you animatedly talking. I love you.
I was banging
You are my
head,
love and Fleabag.
like crying when we were having a watch party.
she was going insane.
So excited to talk about this.
Yeah. I don't want to make this too much about the hot priest.
But we haven't spoken about him.
We haven't spoken about him at all. But still, because I think if we're talking about love, love obviously exists in all of these different forms that we went over just now. But if we're talking about love that exists between Fleabag and the hot priest, I think what scared me the most going in was like how in all the romance stories and media, it's like, oh, it comes and it heals you and it fixes you and you're happy ever after.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't want all of these wonderful developments to be just attributed to some one guy. I mean, the hot priest is not some guy, okay? He's the guy. He's the guy. But I still don't want all of this development to be attributed to him. Because it's just, I find that very narratively unsatisfying and very reductive for Fleabag itself and the kind of growth that she's going through. But at the same time, it's not like the relationship between Fleabag and the hot priest is completely nothing. It's not like... And I like how it becomes a relationship that allows them both to grow in very visible ways. Like, he notices... It's not just him noticing Fleabag, because there was also a growth of more people noticing and acknowledging her. But he notices things that she continues to do that are like negative to her, like her aside and stuff. And he also speaks about how her constantly questioning him kind of, it reinforces his faith. And there's this sense of them both having their own paths and helping each other in a very realistic way towards that. And spoiler alert for the end, while I was watching this, like I said, I was dreading this to be some big romance. And so I was like, oh, if they end up together and he quits the church, I'm going to cry of sadness. I'm going to cry of sadness because that would be terrible. And in the end, you know, they have a situation where he deviates from his... They have sex, okay? They have sex. And he's not supposed to have sex because he's a priest. And then he realizes that, you know, God is more important to him.
After he
And
gives
then
a
he said-
speech on love.
Yeah.
About how it takes courage to love someone.
It takes... Yeah, he has this speech at the wedding about...
Love being awful.
Yeah.
And he says that love is really dangerous and scary, and that's why you need one other person to like go through it with
you.
And that was like, yes, you're right.
And then after that, he decides that he doesn't want to see Fleabag again. And then he says, don't come to the church again. Yeah? Because he chooses God. And I think man,
but it's important to mention he loves Fleabag.
He loves Fleabag.
He says
he loves Fleabag.
But he chooses God.
But he chooses God. And
it must have been so difficult for him to just like choose between two really important things to him, because I don't think she's much of a distraction to him. I think she's just very important to him. Not maybe as important as God, obviously, but a very important person in his life. And it must have been really difficult.
Yeah, in season 1 we see how her unhealthy relationships in terms of sex and romance are kind of ruining various aspects of her life, including the whole situation with Pooh. And season 2 didn't say that, oh, a good relationship will heal all those same aspects of your life. It said it can help you, and then it can help you a little, and that's all it can do. And man, season 2. Enough. Okay, we're done singing praises for this show and time to jump on the hate train.
So much hate in my heart.
What characters do you hate from the series?
Martin, you asshole.
No, I would love to see Sami go first.
Yes.
Because,
Okay. There's this character called Martin. Who Claire the sister, not Claire the Finnish man. I'm sure Claire the Finnish guy doesn't have a secret husband from England.
Hopefully.
That would be controversial. But Claire the sister has a husband named Martin, and he is to put it lightly, the biggest piece of shit I have ever consumed in a media.
Having consumed other pieces of shit.
I have visually perceived. He is the biggest. Like, he's terrible, man. How? I hate him. Okay, so he is an alcoholic, and he treats Claire like absolute shit, and then he doesn't support her in her career. And in season 1 we saw that she had a opportunity to go to Finland, and then he said and then she wasn't doing it because his son, who is her stepson, is like needs her or something, which is so weird.
Needs her in a very weird way because he also wants to get into the path with her, which there's a lot to unpack.
He's a 15-year-old child. There's a lot to unpack. Yeah, I don't hate him. Yeah, so he restricts her from going to Finland in this one way. So her marriage is like holding her back. And then at Claire's birthday party, he kisses Fleabag. Like, he's drunk, and then he goes and kisses Fleabag. And then Fleabag tells Claire, like, you know, this guy is not worth staying back for because he kissed me at your birthday party. And then at the end of season 1, she's like, actually, you know what, Fleabag, you have a history of like going around with men. Are you sure you didn't kiss him? And he just ruined their entire sister relationship. Just because he wanted. And then in season 1, he's like, oh, so how are you going to... I'm just so excited to see how you're going to make this whole situation about yourself again.
Oh, in season 2, right?
Yeah, in season 2. In season 2, first episode. And he's just...
And when she pretends to have a miscarriage, he's like, oh, congrats, you got the attention you wanted or something.
Yeah, and then he says... So this is the situation. I'll explain in a little more detail. So Claire has a miscarriage in the bathroom of the restaurant, and Fleabag is trying to convince her to go to the hospital. But when they reach the table, and Claire is supposed to say, oh, I'm feeling under the weather, let's leave, she actually sits down and starts drinking. And Fleabag is like really concerned for her sister's health, and she is not able to pull it together, and she ends up saying that Fleabag ends up saying that she had a miscarriage. And so they're like, oh, Fleabag, we're like, what? I mean, they don't call her Fleabag. They're like, you need to go to the hospital and this and that. And then Martin says this thing of like, the kid, if the kid wanted to jump ship,
it should jump like some goldfish jumping out of the bowl kind of metaphor.
Yeah, like the kid didn't want to be born from you.
Some really messed up shit like all the time. The whole season.
And like, it was messed up in the sense that, you know, to say that to Fleabag is like very insulting to her as a woman, as a capable woman. But it's also just his wife. He is implying, whether or not he doesn't mean it, but he is implying the same thing for his wife, that her miscarriage is because she's not a good mother, and any miscarriage is because they're not good enough. And because he has this thing against Fleabag, he ends up like pushing it so far and making these terrible statements about anyone that could be in that same situation. And man, I hate him.
He's a very hateable character.
Yeah, he's terrible. Like, damn, he's like a sex offender, misogynist, just an asshole.
Oh,
like,
there are good sex. There are like, I mean, not good sex offenders, but there are the lone guy.
Yeah,
he's a sex offender, and then
but he has some character development. Martin, he never develops. He's just horrible. I hate you.
Oh yeah, and also like a minor thing about the sex offender thing. His very introduction, right, about how he is a guy who loves to make jokes, but then we like get to know that these jokes are just like sexually inappropriate and always like towards women. And like if you take offense to it, he just says, "Oh, so you can't take a joke," in his like very condescending, annoying voice.
Yeah, very insensitive.
A very horrible, terrible, rude man. I think I will go next. Like, you know, like, of course, Martin's there. This may be controversial, but like, I'm a hater at heart. And I hate characters very easily. I was about to say people, but no, characters. Let's stick with characters. I hate characters very easily. I hated Claire at parts. Claire, the sister. And this is partly because I relate to Fleabag a lot. Not like in terms of her lifestyle, but more of how she processes and deals with her emotions. And some of the stuff Claire says to her really got to me at times. And I was like, how could you say this to your own sister? You know, there was this one part, like in season 2, where she gets, and I mean, like, she's giving the award to Belinda. And the person who's supposed to present the award isn't there because I think they had an allergic reaction to the thing Fleabag fed them. Like, she said that it does not have any shrimp. It ended up having not shrimp, shellfish, right? Yeah. It does not have any shellfish. It ended up having shellfish, and like the woman was puking her guts out in the bathroom, so she couldn't present. So Claire presents the award, and during it she says a joke which was initially said by Fleabag, and Claire then told her to shut up. But she uses that same joke, and it gets a really positive reaction from the crowd. And later on, when Fleabag comes back from her conversation with Belinda, Claire lashes out at her because she was mad that that joke had received positive attention. And she says something like, oh, you think you're so interesting with your, I don't know, something, and your dead best friend. And I was just like, man, she really knows where to hit. Yeah, but I think that just comes from being someone who you're like intimately like familiar with. They just like know where to hit you, where it hurts. And I love Claire though. I'm not like talking about Claire as in like she's someone who I hate, but she sucks at times, and she made me hate her at times, not the entire season. I love Claire. I think she's very cool and pretty and attractive.
Nice.
I like strong, powerful women.
And she has a husband and a boyfriend, Devi. Get in line.
Well, they both suck, kind of. I mean, Claire from Finland, the only fault with him is that
He's from Finland.
he's Finnish, yeah. Nothing against Finnish guys, I don't know.
He really reminds me of, this is a tangent, but the Shopaholic, Confessions of a Shopaholic. There's some Finnish guy in that, but they're actually Norwegian.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that and also like his name, Claire, like you will never be Claire. Be original, man. Like, boo. But yeah.
Boo?
No, not boo. Boo as in the boo,
Thumbs down.
you suck, not boo, my beloved. Yeah. Yes. Abhi?
There are a lot of characters that I would rather not see in the show, but particularly the stepmother and Martin. Martin, I just so much hate in my heart for that guy. I cannot even explain it to you. But Sami's already talked about it, so I won't go.
Oh,
further.
one last thing about him. I was about to talk about this, but I keep remembering the fact that Fleabag mentions in the first season that his breath smells like sausages or something. Yeah. And every time I see him, I get the phantom smell of like sausages in my nose.
Like hairline receding asshole. Like, I hate him so much.
Yeah.
But we will not talk about him.
Yeah.
We will talk about the stepmother, but not too much because I don't have much to say about her. I just don't like her. Olivia Colman is a wonderful actress because she portrays emotions so well. There's this one scene where the hot priest wants to step down from officiating the marriage, and he says something like his brother's ill and he has to go to him, and so he can't be there for their wedding. And the stepmother is in her very own nature just obnoxious and cunty and just really bad, but she tries to be so fake during that scene, and it is so difficult to portray that. Not that I would know, but Olivia Colman does a really good job. But it's not about Olivia Colman. I love you, Olivia, but it's about your character, and I hate the evil stepmother so much because she was after the dad ever since Fleabag's and Claire's mom's funeral, and it's just so...
It's like really hard to portray that duality of
Yeah.
that saccharine sweetness kind of person, but hiding beneath it is a complete cunt, as you said.
It's just too sweet at times, and it's so fake that you can sense it. Like, she's never real about anything.
Yeah.
Except for that one scene where Fleabag returns her stolen figurine that she made, that the evil stepmother made for Fleabag's mother from inspiration. She drew inspiration from Fleabag's mother.
Yeah.
And when Fleabag returns that stolen figurine to her, she pats Fleabag's cheek and then she says, I really wondered why you clung to it, given that it was something that was inspired from your mom. And I felt like that was the only one nice scene that she had, and I was like, okay.
I think that also ties in with the love thing we discussed earlier, right?
Yeah.
Maybe she loved Fleabag.
Davey had a theory where she was gay for Fleabag's.
Yeah, like, who wants the dad is so lame and he can't finish his sentences.
And the boobs on that figurine were a little bit too specific to, be
platonic.
Like how do you know what her boobs look like?
Kind of throuple.
Maybe like her getting to the dad was just like her way of clinging on to the remnants of Fleabag's mom. Like, if I can't have you, I'll get your husband after you
I'll
die.
have your identity and position in the family.
Yeah.
But yeah, we hate the stepmom. And I just want to say the dad never really had like a personality. He's just really...
He's like a wet piece of bread.
Yeah, like
He's a very soggy piece of bread.
Yeah.
Perfectly encapsulated.
Like the stepmom is just always controlling him, and then he never has anything. It's like he doesn't have ideas of his own or like a thought process of his own.
He actually did have an idea of his own, which was to send Fleabag to therapy.
But that's also just like
a voucher for therapy, not even like a licensed professional. It was a voucher.
It's like he's so disconnected from her that he just does not care.
But actually, it's strange that Fleabag is doing well. Yeah. And then you see that the hot priest reaches out to her, saying that actually you're still disappearing, and maybe the father is also kind of doing that. Of like, you're doing fine, but you still need therapy. I still don't like the dad. He's not on the hate list, but he's on the like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, like he just doesn't have a purpose.
Yeah, like
in life.
Like do something. Yeah. Challenge.
Yeah. Not a single thought in that head.
Yes.
Don't forget to follow us at wrw.podcast on Instagram and at wrw_podcast on Twitter. You can write to us at womenarewomen22@gmail.com. The links to all things discussed will be in the description, and Sami also tweets about them whenever she decides to listen to the episode. And and Anna, if you're out there,
she's not dead.
That's why I said if you're out there. If you're out there, I am sorry. Anyways, thank you so much for listening to this episode and have a lovely day. Bye.